Right, everybody, we're going to kick off. It is Mental Health Awareness Week, and at the foundation of Light, we want to talk about just that. We want to talk about the impact and methods to improve mental health and well-being in the workplace. So welcome to everybody, and thank you for joining us. There will be a chance for everybody who's watching and listening to this to ask questions to the panel a little bit later on, probably about 10 past 10 or so. So get your questions ready for everybody. But first of all, I'm going to introduce our panel. And we've got Liz Barton-Jones. Welcome to you, Liz, Head of Wellbeing at the Foundation of Light. We've got Craig Hodgson from Sunderland City Council. Welcome to you, Craig. And Gav Cogdon is in from Sunderland's shirt sponsors, Great Annual Savings. And the first question, the most important question you can ask on Mental Health Awareness Week, and any week, any day, ever, anywhere in the world, is how are you? Liz, how are you?
A tough week, if I'm brutally honest. We've had some personal challenges at home, yeah, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel, isn't there? And I think I'm a big believer in what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So yeah, I'm doing well, yeah, and I'm looking forward to the weekend, and I'm looking forward to doing some of the activities in terms of, you know, getting into nature, which is part of the Mental Health Awareness Week this week. So yeah, I'm feeling good. Thanks, Tom.
Yes, that's a good one about the nature. I've just done a podcast a few days ago for Sky's Mental Health Awareness Week, and it was a podcast all around the importance of nature for people's well-being. And Gav, how are you?
Yeah, it's Friday, isn't it? So pretty much exactly like Liz. And this is something different. I think obviously day to day for us to be in a panel and speak about it, it's perfect for me. Makes us, I suppose, like a little anxious that it's going to happen, but then I'm going to tick a new box. So quite looking forward to the weekend, and looking forward to what difference I suppose we can make. Maybe if this does come out and make a little difference to mental health, because we're all passionate about it.
I can assure you that talking about mental health helps a heck of a lot more people than you ever think when you do start talking about it. And when you say that it's Friday, everyone's looking forward to the weekend. It's Friday's not your favorite day when you work every single Saturday, like me, Gav. I've got another one to go. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Tom. I just wanted to say thank you to the foundation as well for obviously giving us the chance from the council to be on the panel today. We obviously do a lot of work within workplaces around workplace health and well-being. So it's very high on our agenda, and you know, anything that I can contribute this morning, hopefully
Well, Mike, just
helpful. You know, group. I'm sorry. Am I still there? Can you hear us?
You had a little pause there, Craig. You had a little pause. I think we've got you again. I think we've got you again now, though. So I tell you what I'll do, Craig. We'll come back to you now with the first question of this, really. And why is well-being in the workplace so important?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, obviously within the council, workplace health is so high on our agenda, and I think it's a fundamental question that we pose to workplaces. You know, how highly do you value well-being? I think for me, you know, it's we want staff to feel as though they're cared for and looked after within workplaces in Sunderland. Employers have a responsibility basically to make that they can to look after their staff. There's benefits on both sides of that, which we're all aware of. You know, the employee themselves as well. You know, we hope that they're going to be happier at work, therefore happier when they leave work, and it's just a snowball effect. So yeah, hugely important. For me, yeah.
Thanks, Craig. We're getting a few pauses here and there where you're talking. I don't know if it's possible to maybe switch it onto your phone and take it off the Wi-Fi. Perhaps I'm not sure if it's the Wi-Fi that's the issue, and I'm not sure if you can hear me because you are definitely paused now, unless you're falling asleep, which I'm used to when I'm talking. Craig, Liz, as head of wellbeing, right? That really interested me straight away because I thought, the fact that any organization has a head of well-being shows that that organization is really taking well-being and mental health very seriously. Okay, so I like that straight away. Can you just explain your role on a day-to-day basis as head of well-being?
Yeah, so I suppose it's got two folds to it, really. Whilst it's head of, I'm very externally facing, so it's about the well-being and the participation in physical activity and sport of our potential customers, but also I suppose I do take some level of responsibility for internally what we do around mental health. We've recently signed up to the Mental Health at Work commitment, which is all about what we're looking and how we want to support our staff. So there's a fantastic resource that people can sign up to, and it's a commitment really that you're going to work towards some of the standards that's that the commitment is. So things about prioritizing mental health in the workplace, proactively ensuring that we develop a culture and we drive positive mental health for our colleagues and friends in the business, increase organizational confidence and capability, provide help tools and support, promote an open culture around mental health. So, just dispelling that stigma that's associated with mental health and challenges, and really, so as I say, look at the tools and the opportunities that we can provide. And I think we signed up to a long time ago the Better Health at Work Award, which is run across the Northeast. And part of that campaign was around mental health and well-being. And I think, if I'm honest, at the time, it was probably a tick box exercise. I think we did things as an organisation, but it was about getting that accreditation. And I think we've completely changed that now as a business. And it's probably quite brave of us to admit that at the time, it probably was a little bit of a challenge. And we're an organisation of 130 people, which is probably not that large compared to some of the people listening today. But every one of those people are important to the business. They're all part of that bigger jigsaw. So if someone is having some challenges around their mental health and well-being, how can we help? I'm a mental health first aider. We've got other colleagues that are mental health first aiders. We've got, positivity around the building, and we've got opportunities for people to access some of the self-help resources if they don't want to have a conversation with somebody. So I think there's loads of different ways businesses can promote positive mental health and well-being to a range of people, I suppose, in terms of how they want to receive that message. I'm really quite open about my mental health. I live with anxiety. I take medication to help with my anxiety. And, that's almost like my crutch. And I'm very confident in talking to people about it, because it's no different than if I had a cold and I would take there are other brands available, but I would take a Beecham's or something like that. You're quite open about that when it's something physical, or you broke your leg and you need a crutch to walk with. And I suppose dispelling some of the myths around mental health, I function perfectly well most of the time, but there are times where I have some real challenges, and I think just dispel some of those myths and have it as a real open culture to help people to make them feel that they can come forward. I don't know if I've answered your question there or if I've gone round in a circle.
No, you haven't. And Liz, I'm going to pick, but before I go to Gavin, I'm going to ask you one more there, Liz. When you talked about your anxiety, and you said you're very open about it, how much, one, has it helped you to be open about it so that other people know? And I bet you now a lot of people who you've spoken to, it's really helped them to open up and also realize that they're not alone when you talk about it so openly.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm a bit of a self-help guru. I mean, I'm constantly, looking for books to help me, or, listening to, colleagues that I work with, especially around this forum. So, so our colleagues from Mind really help and have suggested, different books I can look at. And I tend to buy them. And then when I know someone's maybe going through a challenging time, I kind of lend them, but my personal books, I suppose. So there's a couple of books, and it's a fantastic book for anyone out there. There's a book called Living with a Black Dog And this kind of black dog is, I don't know if you've seen it, you're nodding. It's about living with kind of depression or anxiety, but it's also about, there's also the second book, which is about how people around you can kind of help. And again, it just kind of breaks down some of the things that perhaps it's really difficult sometimes to get what's going on in your head out, and for people to kind of understand what's happening in your head. So I think some of those books and self-helps is the way I've kind of done it. You know, and you know, if I'm having a bad day, and you know, my colleagues that sits opposite me will, you know, she'll say, "Oh, have you taken your pills today?" Because, you know, like, or you know, I'll have a giddy joke about that. But again, it's about just breaking down that stigma that, you know, you will have good days, you will have bad days. You know, and I'm being a member of the workforce really helped me, you know, and I know for some people, you know, being part of work helped them, whereas for other people, actually, it's taken time away. I need the routine. I need a purpose to get up. That's part of my anxiety is kind of those processes that I put in place. So I'd like to hope, I mean, I'd probably have to ask colleagues if my experiences have been helpful, but I'd like to hope that they have.
Yes, as a mental health first aider as well, you know, Sky Sports put me through that course. I know all about the Black Dog Day and that video that you were talking about there. Gav, you working for great annual savings, and there are statistics out there that show that if you're working for an organization and you are a team leader, or you've got people under you, you're a line manager, that if you treat those people well, if those people feel valued as people as well as colleagues and workers, you get more out of them, that they work harder, their productivity goes up. Have you found that in your business?
Yeah, so I'm new to role really from August last year, and I think that's like living proof that these stats that you're talking about, I think that's why we'll see more roles such as mine in businesses. Now, that's twofold. I think a lot of businesses now think that they've got to support the staff anyway from a health and wellbeing perspective. But exactly what you're speaking about there is a bit of productivity extra from that, whether it's somebody going out for a walk for 15 minutes, resetting, coming back in. There's a lot of research that says that they will perform better. They'll obviously feel better. You've got that natural benefit towards your health. So I think my role now is definitely living proof, Tom, that we will be seeing more businesses driving forward mental health as well as health for the staff by creating these roles that, like I say, I'm new to post from 2020 in August through a pandemic. So I think, like you say, that does show you the value attached to it.
Yeah, I think we're going to probably get onto the pandemic very soon, actually, because things were completely different around the whole world, but it had a real effect on people's mental health as well, which we'll talk about. Right, Craig, we look like we've got you back. Your eyes aren't closed anymore, which is great for me to see. So Craig from Sunderland City Council, which, by the way, when I saw Sunderland CC being a sports broadcaster, I automatically assumed that meant cricket club. All right, so that's that's what you're dealing with here with me. All right, but you must. I mean, the Sunderland City Council will cover like so many different areas and so many different people. So, in terms of the well-being, what's your role within that?
Yeah, so I sit within the public health department at Sunderland City Council, and you're right. You know, we're tasked with tackling any kind of inequality, basically any health inequality. So that could be, you know, obesity, it could be reducing alcohol intake, reducing smoking rates in the city. My job's kind of all of that, encompassed in all of that as workplace health coordinator. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, if you like, in terms of needing to address, you know, all those different health topics essentially within businesses. And mental health at the top of that for me. You know, I often just imagine it as the overarching that everything else feeds into. So whether or not you're happy at work, obviously, is a massive one in terms of looking after your mental well-being as well.
And do you, what kind of provisions are there in place across the City Council for people who maybe are struggling not just in the workplace as well, but people who are struggling with their mental health and their well-being, what provisions are in place?
Yeah, I think obviously Liz has touched on a couple of those things already. The local support services that are out there, a big part of my job's facilitation, really. So where I find that there's a workplace who want to know more, I'll put them in touch with people like Mind, or we work closely with, like North East Counselling Service. There's a business out there, Able Futures, who do brilliant work to support businesses as well with mental health. So there is, I think the challenge a lot of the times is actually ensuring people know where to go, and ensuring businesses know where to go when there are issues, or when they want to do more to support their colleagues. So I'm always telling businesses, have a directory of services handy for everyone at the workplace, so that they know in any given circumstances they've got somewhere to turn. And that can be, if it can be done discreetly as well. We know that a lot of people won't want to come forward, certainly in the first instance, if they are struggling. So if they know where to go and they can do it on their own without anybody else knowing, that's a massive comfort for them. So yeah, a lot of my work's essentially just providing businesses with what they need, and ensuring that they go on and can support people as best they can.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because when we did the mental health first aid course at Sky, we call ourselves Wellbeing champions, because of the potentially negative connotations of the word mental for mental health. There shouldn't be any negative connotations, but to some people there are. So we call ourselves Wellbeing champions. And what we see in our role, although we are kind of trained in how to talk to someone who's going through a bad time, and there are various methods to do with that, really our job is exactly what you've just said. It's kind of a signpost to say, right, this is what's available, not just within Sky. There is amazing services within Sky, but services elsewhere across the country. There's some phone numbers, there's some websites, there's all, and it can help so many people there. But Gav, when I said there about, we talk about well-being because of negative connotations of the word mental, do you feel that stigma is changing?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird you just came to me there, because I was just about to pick up there that a lot of people do when we think about mental health, we think about these conditions such as anxiety, such as stress, such as depression. And I think if I was to go out the street now and ask people what is mental health, you would find that would be the answer. And I think what we've got to spread the message on, make sure that people understand is, I'm trying to raise that within here around, actually mental health is this day-to-day feeling. How do we think? How do we feel? And how do we act? So we've got to raise that message around, actually it's a normal process for, on a day-to-day basis, to feel differently. And that could be, for example, I'm trying to relate it to the business here, but if someone's late and they're stressing about that, their mental health at that point in time is going to be, if we use a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being obviously severe, 1 being the feeling amazing, it's going to be higher than what it would be if they're presenting to work nice and early. And that isn't their fault. There's been a crash potentially on the motorway, they're coming into work. And I think my answer to that is, yeah, we've got to change from this negative feeling of mental health and almost normalize it, that it is different on a day-to-day basis. And actually, if we can think, act and feel and understand them things, that might be, for example, some of the things that we could do to cope with it as an individual throughout our life, and with kids, children, job roles. It's probably an important thing to understand.
That's it, Liz, because are you seeing that? I mean, it used to always be that a lot of jobs, there were 9 to 5, Monday till Friday. There wasn't a lot of leeway either way. You take your lunch break whenever you're told to take your lunch break. Are you finding that people now, in different scenarios, like Gav was saying, it might be to do with childcare, it could be to do with all sorts of different things in your life, to make people's lives better? Are you seeing that people's work hours are a little bit more flexible? They might prefer to do 8 till 4, 7 till, start later, what have you? Are you seeing change there, and how is that helping?
Yeah, I think certainly within the foundation, there are certain roles that are customer facing, that have, do work within the parameters of of being customer facing. I think some of our sort of support services or sort of some of the managerial opportunities are allowed to have sort of probably a bit more flexibility than we previously had pre-pandemic. And I think, you know, just you know, Zoom, Teams, you know, all of these kind of opportunities to connect with people and to, you know, to work in different ways is fantastic. We got some great partners that we work with, and again, you know, we're considering it. We have a culture group here at the foundation, which is all about sort of working and trying to provide a really good opportunity for our colleagues. And one of the things, you know, we're talking about is around that kind of flexible approach to work, and, you know, almost like a no email Friday, so that people, you know, perhaps have to go back to a phone and pick up and have that conversation with people. So I think there's just different ways of working, and I think the pandemic has kind of almost forced that and brought it forward maybe a few years, which for me I think is fantastic. You know, I just think it's if there's been one positive from all of this, I think that, you know, the use of technology and the way we can connect and work differently is really positive.
Yeah, I didn't think there would ever be a day that I could do my job as a Sky Sports news presenter from this exact position where I am now. And that is now possible. So you're right. I mean, we've suddenly gone light years ahead in the space of a year. Craig, what feedback are you getting around the city about people who are able to work from home? Because when I speak to people who have been solely working from home during the pandemic, a lot of them they seem to either love it or hate it. And some people who've been coming to work all the way through the pandemic either are very grateful for that or wish they were working from home. But when I speak to people with this new way of what's called hybrid working, which seems to be coming in now that all the restrictions are lifted, where some days you might work from home, some days you might be in the office, or in my case, studio. What feedback are you getting? Because those people with the hybrid working, they seem to be very happy at having a nice mix of the two.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think certainly from a personal point of view, I've always been used to that hybrid model that you just explained there. I'm used to working from home. I appreciate having an office setting that I can go into maybe 1 or 2 days a week if I need to. I think the fact that that's been taken away from us, like enforced, it's being taken away from us. A lot of people struggled with that, myself included. I haven't appreciated being at home, working from home every single day. And it's that feeling for me that you don't have a choice in the matter. And I think that's where people have been struggling. It's the fact that the option to go into an office and see colleagues and bounce ideas off each other, that's what they're missing. But for me, yeah, I think going forward, any businesses who are able to have that option for people to work from home or work from an office should try and embrace it. I appreciate there's a lot of roles out there which are frontline and they need to be out there. That's just the day-to-day nature of their work. But I think if there's the option, people do generally, and again, going back to what you said about feedback from businesses I work with, people are appreciating, you know, every now and then the day where they can just, you know, take it a bit easier on a morning, not have to rush out to an office. As Gav was mentioning before, you know, taking the commute away can be a massive relief to a lot of people on certain days, depending on their circumstances. So I really do believe that the hybrid model that you mentioned there is going to be much more made much more available to people, and I think that's a really positive thing, actually.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. And commuting when you're working in London, but believe me, right, if you can get rid of that, you're going to be a lot happier. Liz, you were nodding pretty much all the way through what Craig was saying there.
Absolutely, I felt like a bit of a nodding donkey, but yeah, absolutely. I think I said, you know, earlier today, you know, for me, working is a big part of my personal routine, and you know, I've loved being at home in terms of some of the challenges, but equally, you know, when we were able to, you know, almost book a spot in the office, I was probably one of the ones to want to come back, because it's the best of both worlds now, really, for me. You know, I can work from home, you know, and I can have a flexible kind of approach to that. But then equally, I'm in the office today, for example, and you know, it's just great seeing people and seeing the team. But knowing that if I've got other things on in my diary that I need to do, you know, there is that opportunity to work from home and still, you know, still be really productive, if not more so in some respects. And again, that's been a bit of a switch around from an organisational point of view, that people, you know, can be trusted and will you know, do the work that they need to do from home, as well as if they were in the office. So yeah, I'm a massive advocate of that kind of blended approach to home working and working from the office.
And Gav, I thought it was really interesting that you said you started this role during the pandemic back in August. I mean, just tell us more about the difficulties that faced immediately.
Yeah, so from a business perspective, obviously, X amount of employees on furlough, so didn't obviously get to see them, and it was I think it was something like 25% of the business at that time. And the reason the role became about is because we were moving premises at that time, which got put a bit back from a COVID perspective. So the idea was we were going to launch a new building, gym, health and wellbeing team, etc., etc. So it actually probably has worked in a good way in respect of come January, when this was it the second or third wave, I kind of keep up, but when that then hit, we were able to do more than what was offered previously for staff. So we've had, like you say, a lot of positive comments because of the physical aspect that we were able to do with some online Zooms, whether that be, like you say, the physical aspect of an exercise session, or even just something such as this, a conversation with staff who previously would have only had, like say, a line manager, maybe it's a small team, or potentially friends, family and stuff. But being able to have this type of call with myself was definitely fed back that was a big positive for them, to be able to put some kind of like real honesty into a conversation to help them cope with what was happening.
I think there is that sort of when you starting a new role there, if you start a completely new job in a new organization, there's that anxiety of and nerves of walking into this building and not knowing anybody, but actually you would probably take that over starting a new job, working from home and not having any interaction, not having anybody to kind of like take you under their wing, such like. So it's one of the several potential problems that throughout this pandemic. Now, on this Mental Health Awareness Week, the theme this year is nature. And living where I live, very, very jealous of anyone living in the Sunderland area, because you've got beautiful beaches to go through. And I mean, has anybody specifically told you how much that I know someone mentioned earlier about going for walks and such like, as at one point we were only allowed to do it for an hour a day. Has anybody specifically said how much that has really helped getting out and about, clearing their head, going for that run or walk, Craig, especially given that you've got so many beautiful places to go up there?
Yeah, I think, again, feedback I get from businesses is that when they start embracing that kind of change and accepting those kind of behaviours within a working day, they wonder how they ever functioned without them previously, or how they were ever as productive without them. So, you know, I'm quite close to a lot of the statistics, and it says, you know, on average, it's like £600 per employee per year in terms of presenteeism. So being at work but not working to your full potential, that's the cost of business per year. And I just feel as though that's where those kind of mechanisms and those tools are so important, because people can be at work and they might not be in the right frame of mind to actually deliver as well as they could be. But it's proven that being outdoors, walks, whatever it might be, can help to reset, to refocus you, and to bring the best out of you. So yeah, when businesses do well-being well, they do get the benefits, and I think that's the kind of feedback that I get from businesses who do take on the support that we offer. Yeah,
well, that's good to hear that, because I'm not surprised by that at all, by the way, because you think to yourself, of course that helps, but maybe before you didn't necessarily realize it, but it seems so obvious now that you look back. By the way, anybody watching this, there's a little Q&A button. If you've got some questions, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to ask your questions to the panel. So if you want to type them into that box, I will see them, and then I will ask them to the panelists in a few minutes' time. And Liz, just on that same theme of nature there, it's with you being the head of Wellbeing there, how can that help? How can nature help the people who you're working with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing about nature is it's free, isn't it? It's not, you know, it's not going to cost you, or it doesn't have to cost you the world to go and experience it. I've lived in a village for 16 years and discovered footpaths that I never knew existed until the pandemic said that we could only walk from the house, you know, and that's kind of classic, isn't it? It's things that have opened up. I love a mindful walk. Again, you know, actually not just about putting one step in front of another, but actually recognizing what's going on around you, you know, listening. It was lovely when we were setting up this morning. I could hear somebody's in the background. Birds were tweeting.
Yeah, I heard that.
And
I was wondering where that was.
Smile. Yeah, it certainly wasn't me, because I'm in the beacon of light. I think it might have been Gavin, actually. So I was a little bit envious. But again, just taking notice of things that are going on around you. There's some really good resources out there as well. Mind have got a mindful walking sort of document that people can download. So things about like barefoot walking. And again, I know not everyone wants to go barefoot walking. I certainly don't, given the amount of horses that use some of the footpaths around my area. But being very present in kind of, actually, I'm going for a walk, and I'm not going to necessarily take my phone with me. I'm perhaps, you know, I'm going to turn my connections off on my watch. But also, you know, sort of, there was I saw something good recently about rainbow walking. And again, I'm sometimes a bit like, oh, okay, that sounds a bit far-fetched. But recognizing that everyone knows the colors of the rainbow. So can you see something that's red? Can you see something that's yellow? Can you see something that's green on your walk? And almost check it off in your head as you're going along. We've also done things for our participants where we've done a walking bingo. So you can download some of the resources, and you can print it out and almost take it on. Great, I need to see a post box. Okay, I've ticked that. Right, great. Right, I need to see a red van. Okay, let's hope the postman's somewhere near. So I think that there's lots of different ways that it doesn't need to cost an earth. You don't need a membership to get outside and enjoy nature. And like you said, I've moved to the northeast, and I've been up here now 25 years. But I love the fact that you can go north, east, south, and west, and you can experience completely different environments. You know, the fact that we're so close to the sea. I can get to reservoirs, I can get to forests, I can get to mountains. It's just so exciting, like what nature can bring. I actually walked up Pentor Monument for the first time on Saturday. It was hideous weather, but for me, it was just a way to connect and just to go, actually, you know, I can see Sunderland, and I can be really proud of what we're doing here in Sunderland. And, you know, as I say, we've got some fantastic parks in the city, and in the region as well. So get out and enjoy them. And if you need any help with kind of recognizing where they are, the council have got a fantastic walking program that has all of their parks. They have a number of routes that people can follow if they don't want to go too far off the beaten track. Just get out there and enjoy it. And there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just underprepared people. So, you know, put your Mac in there, put a brolly in, put some shoes that you don't mind getting muddy and dirty, and get out there and enjoy it. You'll feel amazing when you have a go.
Liz, when you said there you'd moved to the northeast 25 years ago, when you move to the northeast, you never leave. Why would you? All right, I dream of that one day, being able to go back there, and I cannot wait. I'm Northumberland rather than Sunderland or Durham, but the whole of the northeast, love it. To you, Craig, Gavin, sorry. When it comes to a lot of people who I hear from at work, whether they're working from home or not, these days you get your work emails on your phone at a lot of organizations, and you might be on a day off, but your emails come through to your phone and you're thinking, oh, I can't unsee that now. I feel like I have to do something because, you know, I need to acknowledge this email, even though I'm not working, or even though I don't start work until later, or I've already finished work. How do you get people to switch off? Because switching off and not constantly having on your mind on work is so important. What advice do you give?
I think it's a great question, and I think one of the things I was thinking about, even when you were talking about working from home, the whole COVID has brought that to light, as in people working, answering emails at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I think people did that anyway. I think in certain job roles, I think people feel the need to before COVID, but I think that's increased it to a level where there was probably people in there working from home who never experienced it before and probably felt like they had to answer back, get that answer straight away, answer the email, and almost work until the stories of people working until 10 o'clock at night who never ever used to do that. So I think we've got a piece of work to do on that, if I'm honest. Not just this organisation, but every organisation. Now, I have seen some organisations move forward with, I mean, there's something that Liz has just said there about like a no email Friday. There's some organisations who say we don't want you to answer back at a certain date or a certain time, sorry. And I think it is people's choice. A lot of people in a lot of roles now are motivated by work. We spend that much time at work that we want to do well. And it's kind of human instinct to, in certain job roles, to perform to the best of our ability, and that sometimes means answering an email quickly. We feel, but I think I couldn't give you that answer today, but we've definitely got to start raising awareness around the impact what that does have. Do you need to answer an email, or can it wait? Does that email need to even be sent, or can that phone be picked up, or can it be wrote down on a to-do list to be picked up the following day? If I was to give one tip, what I currently do is the list is a bit of a mind dump. So on a night, I will empty my thoughts before I leave the office, because the following day, that is the work that then I can then pick up. So if I was to spread that message, it would be kind of leaving that job role with a list, and then moving it into the following day as you start your day to then accomplish what you need to do that day.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because at Skyway every year there is, or might even be every 6 months, something called a people survey where everybody is asked certain questions and you anonymously like rank certain things from 1 to 7. I don't know why it's 1 to 7. In fact, I think it's 0 to 7. I don't know why it's 1 to 10. But anyway, and you can leave comments anonymously as well. And the most the biggest feedback that's come out of that is exactly that, what I just asked you there, Gav. People feeling like, even though they finish work, feeling like they actually are constantly working because of emails on their phone. And that's exactly, you said there's work to be done there. That's exactly what Sky are thinking of as well. How do we improve that? A question has come in. If anybody watching's got a question, please just type it and I'll ask it to the panel. Craig, I'll come to you because Liz and Gavin have just been speaking about pretty much this. Actually, this is good timing, this question. So Craig, what do your organisations have in place to help mental health, in terms of how some businesses have, as Gavin and Liz were saying, like a no meetings rule on a Friday, to help staff tie up any tasks and finish off the week feeling more accomplished, rather than having actions from meetings and maybe going into the weekend thinking they haven't tied up all of their loose ends? What's in place around certain organisations to help that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, for me, I think Gav actually summarised that really nicely in terms of emails and things like that. I think for me, what I've seen and worked on with certain businesses, the most important thing for me is that it needs to come from a senior level. There needs to be an understanding and a set of sort of standards that management adhere to as well, because those guys are the ones who often set the standard. And if they seem to be doing emails on an evening, or actions up until like last thing on a Friday, even over the weekend, that kind of filters down a little bit. So I think how the management go about their business is really important. I've had businesses who've set up, what they call email etiquette, which kind of touches on some of those things that you've said there, and it's just reminding people on a regular basis of that. It is okay, like you said there, to carry work over into the next week, or to not be worrying about it over the weekend. But again, sadly, I kind of have to agree with Gav a little bit that it's a difficult one to actually give a definite answer to. I think obviously the nature of a business is going to play a big part in that as well, in terms of how you address it. But for me, it's about clear standards that I adhere to from top to bottom in the business. That's where I think they'll start to get a bit of success in terms of people feeling more comfortable about it.
There's a few minutes left, so get your questions in. I want to ask you, Liz, a little bit more about the mental health first aid course, because something that we're all taught there, and something that we've learned is the importance of talking about any issues you have. This is from probably more of a human point of view rather than a business point of view, but anything to do with your well-being, anything that's just making you feel a bit low and getting you down, the most important thing is talking about it to someone. It could be a colleague, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, someone who rings me to talk to me, who I had never met before. He'd actually seen me, he'd heard me doing a podcast about mental health and got in touch on social media. My DMs on Twitter are open specifically for mental health, for people to talk. Talking's so important. But Liz, when people do come to you to anyone to talk about themselves, that they're feeling down, what's your advice if you're the person who's listening to that person?
I think it kind of needs to be a listen, or an active listen. I think we can be a bit guilty of thinking we know, or trying to find an answer for that person as they're talking. So actually what suits me and what helps me might not help that person. So I think not necessarily saying, well, for me it's this. I think it's listening to what they're saying, and listening to be able to signpost them or to support them in a way that's appropriate for them. Because one size doesn't fit all when it comes to mental health, and some of the signposts and some of the options that are open to people. I always sort of try and do it in a quiet place, sort of in a place away from people, or a private place, or encourage people to contact me on my mobile, or send me a WhatsApp or something like that if they don't necessarily want to talk about it. So I think it's just about being kind of non-judgmental, because what I think is causes me stress or anxiety might be completely different, or is likely to be completely different from what's causing them. And everyone has their own triggers and their own challenges in life. And I think your life journey is what it kind of dictates how you respond to those kind of things. So I always say, I was having a chat with a colleague this week, and we were talking about mental health, and I said it's about putting your own oxygen mask on first. The whole kind of, if you're on a plane and they say put your own oxygen mask on first before you help anybody else. And I think that's really important when it comes to mental health, is are you in a good place, and can you help by looking after yourself and being really mindful, and then I think you offer sort of better advice to colleagues and to friends and family, because you are in a good place yourself. And yeah, I think that probably, but it's everyone's personal journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talking and listening, just absolutely vital for anyone, whether that's inside of work or outside of work. Right, there's less than a minute left. All right, so quick fire. Gav, how happy will you be to see great annual savings on the middle of the Sunderland shirt lifting the playoff final trophy in League One?
100%. I'm a Sunderland lad, so let's make that happen, definitely.
And what will the mood be like at the foundation of Light, Liz, if we're not in League One anymore?
Yeah, I don't want to say something I'm not good at, but I know we're 100% behind the team. You know, we you know, the success of the team this year and the new ownership is fantastic, and we're really excited about the future and the role that the foundation has in supporting SAFC in the community.
Yeah, good. I just suddenly thought, oh no, actually, Liz might be a Lincoln fan or something. she won't be happy at all. And Craig,
definitely not.
And Craig, this definitely for you. I mean, the whole city. I mean, imagine the mood of the place if there is something to finally celebrate after years of, well, there hasn't been very much to celebrate for a long time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we've heard it said time and time again, and where the city's so connected to the football club, and so the success of the football club drives the city almost. And I'm a massive Sunderland fan as well, so I've got, you know, high hopes for them in the playoffs as well. Let's hope they get it done.
I've got very high hopes. Fingers crossed as well, Liz. I'm not sure my expectations are as high as my hopes, but the fact that fans are allowed back in is definitely a positive step, and we'll be there again next season regardless. Well, Gavin Cogdon, Liz Barton-Jones and Craig Hodgson, thank you very much indeed for your time. I know it's very, very valuable, and I know that this will have helped a lot of people.
Thank you.
Cheers, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.